welcome to today's talk about supergroups. For those of you who already have a hub, you probably already use groups that are standard groups, and some of you may be using supergroups. But today we're going to go through what features you receive with a standard group, and then how some of those features are extended, and the additional features you get inside a supergroup. So this is a document that I wrote up a while ago, and it will be provided along with a video of this talk at a later date. We'll touch on each of these topics briefly, and you guys, of course, are welcome to submit any support tickets or ask questions at the end. So, what are supergroups? You're probably thinking, supergroups are advanced hub groups. They provide the hub with a few things. One of them being the ability to provide a subgroup in a way, a home or a microsite, and this sucks. So, what is a supergroup? Well, supergroups are advanced hub groups within the parent hub that have their own identity or branding, which means they're in a sense a microsite. They're still under the umbrella of the main hub, but they have their own customizations. They might do their own development. They have different resources assigned to them, so that you have your own culture and your own corner of the main hub. It also is a way for the main hub to be sustainable, so they could, in theory, sell these microsites or sell these supergroups to other smaller groups that really don't need the resources of the entire hub, and they fit well under the umbrella of the goals of the main hub. So everybody can kind of work together, and that's one of the nature of the hub is to be collaborative. So you could have a corner for different facets of your research. So what does a standard group come with? Well, a standard group can be public or private. The group managers can manage membership there. You can set permissions for the more fine-grained permissions for the different features that are available. So if you wanted the discussion forum to be completely public to everybody where they could read the discussion there, you could do that. They would need to be a member of the group to post in that forum, though. Typically, we see like calendar or announcements be public because they want to give out people outside the group that might be part of the main hub or even public to the hub where they haven't registered for an account yet a little bit of information about what they're doing, especially with published works. Here's a paper that I wrote, or here's a data set. I want people to be able to see this. It's freely available, but if they're willing to, if they want to collaborate with us, please come join the group. So there's email group settings for the discussion emails. The group manager can create and modify different pages within the group. There's a wiki, like I mentioned, publications, which we call resources. There's the ability to have separate projects. So if you have a group, you can have multiple projects within that group where everybody in that group has access to. So you think a collaborative group, and you may be working on multiple things as well. You can read the rest of the list here. Everything you could think of that you may need for a collaborative group to work, you will find within our groups here. Okay, and an additional to here with announcements and collections. Collections is what we like to call Pinterest for scientists. It's a way to quickly post something with other common posts within a collection and disseminate it to other people. Where publications or resources is our mechanism of tied to the libraries. The same idea of I have an author, I have all this metadata, I might have this data set, but I need an abstract and additional data that goes with that, or a collection can just be a quick post. So you already get all those features within the standard group. But what happens when you flip the switch and become a supergroup? And what considerations do you need to take before you do that? First thing that you'll notice is that the template will change. And I'll show you here in a minute the standard template that comes with a supergroup. But that template can be modified, and your own skin for your new supergroup home can be created by a web designer. Um, so you need to keep in mind that a supergroup is, while it is more advanced, it does require more resources to one set up and to maintain. So you have the custom branding, you have macros, which go hand in hand with the custom branding. Let's say you have a Twitter feed um, that you might want to put on multiple pages or the homepage. You'd create a macro for that, which is that's just a small little container that fits inside the template. Um, and then you also have the ability for PHP pages. So this is the extendability where you have your standard group pages, which are strictly content, which is HTML, text. Well, now that you become a supergroup, you could potentially put PHP code in there and do something a little bit more fancy. Okay. Database. You have your own database is created within the hub for this supergroup. It is a separate database instance. I'm sorry, it's a separate database from the main hub database. It is still the same MySQL instance, but the credentials are separate and stored in the file system for the supergroup. This is a standard MySQL database and does not refer to other components within the CMS on the hub that you may have seen. You also have the ability to build components. So any of you that are familiar with building HUBzero components, with very few modifications, you could take a hub component and move it into a supergroup. This is really cool because you can then write your own PHP code, you can modify your template, and now with the component, you could have your own compartmentalized application. And I'll show you an example of that in a little bit. Okay. Now that you are able to build code, and I should say that the components are not built with PHP pages. Those are separate things. Typically, we don't see a lot of PHP pages. A lot of people create their own custom template and then create their own supergroup components. So now that you're dealing with executable code, PHP, JavaScript, all that needs to be maintained. So within the supergroup, there is a code repository, and we use an instance of GitLab to manage that on our hosted hubs. If you don't want to use GitLab, you could use a standard Git repo, but we do recommend that you use some type of code management for the code within the supergroup file structure. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a bit. Modules, again, they're the same. They're extended a little bit more, but I won't go into too much detail there. Another cool feature is group usage metrics. So if you have a hub, you probably have Google Analytics set up on the hub. And that's set up in the last few lines of the template. So any hub page that you load that loads the template will be counted within the Google Analytics, which means that the hub owner can look at the Google Analytics page and see how the supergroups are doing, because that Google Analytics code is being loaded on each one of those pages. But let's say you are the PI of the project for that supergroup, and you don't necessarily have access to the hub-wide Google Analytics. It's possible you do, but you have to be granted access to that and that's set up. Well, as a developer for your supergroup, you have access to the file system. You have access to your template, and you can write PHP code. So you have the ability to add your own Google Analytics tracking code to your supergroup template, which means that will go to your Google Analytics account, and you can track your analytics separate from the rest of the hub, because you may not, care so much about what the other hub is doing. You just want to know how your supergroup is doing. So with that, I'll jump out and show you a little bit of a demo here. This is a standard group on one of our hosted hubs called HUBzero. You can see the menu here on the left. whether it's resources, the blog, the forum, projects, your announcements, files, and activity are relatively new. So this is what a standard group looks like. When you go to the admin interface and you flip the switch to a supergroup, this is what you see almost immediately. This is what the default supergroup template looks like. You can see the same type of features are listed here, and your pages are listed under overview. So from here, your web designer can modify this template or they can create their own. What I want to point out here first, though, is that you'll notice that you have two menus here on the upper right. One says Group Manager, one's by name. Since most people in the supergroup come to the supergroup only for the supergroup, they see this is their home, okay? They're looking for one, they're looking for one, oh, how do I get back to my dashboard for the main hub? They can click on their name there and you go back to your dashboard. For those of you who are used to the hub, you can get to my tools, my session, my tickets. You can see you are definitely on my GeoHub here. Each supergroup has this powered by my GeoHub to reinforce the idea that they are part of the my GeoHub community still, and not something else completely. So why am I showing my GeoHub? It's because they use supergroups quite a bit for their different projects, whether it's Glass, UDU, WaterHub, or Gabs. In particular, UDU here, I will give you guys a quick preview into what they're doing. This is what their custom template looks like. You can see it's radically different than this template. Their designer did that. And you can see that this bar, powered by my GeoHub, is still there. As a group manager, I can click on the group manager menu, and now I have settings for group membership, settings for your standard group settings, whether the group is restricted, it's visible to searches, you can set the permissions for each of the features, for the wiki, the forum, the blog. This is all part of the standard group feature set. When you get into pages, you will see a hierarchy of the group pages that are here and the ones that they've created, the ability to manage each page, and the ability to manage modules as well. For them, they have modules for images on the home slider, for the bottom and the top menu. So if a person needed to make a change to the menu structure, they would edit this module and edit these links right here in the WYSIWYG editor. Pretty simple, but this makes it really easy where there's a web interface for these modules and you don't have to edit the template just to make a quick menu change. So to go back to their template, they have what they call, this project has since ended, what they call the decision dashboard. And I want to show you that each of these tools that they list here are web tools. This is PHP code and components that they created for their supergroup. This is at one of the regional climate centers. The code has been moved, but it pretty much looks the same as it did on my GeoHub. I wanted to show you this because it's really cool. It's very interactive, where you can create a growing degree day graph and then use high charts for this. So you can see how this code absolutely can live inside a supergroup. Very interactive. So that's what you could do with a supergroup component that lives inside here. Another supergroup, just to give you an idea of what it can look like. Here's a group for Gabs. Here's another supergroup on PharmaHub. They have a big slider. You can see it's very different. Now you're thinking, how do I change from a regular group to a supergroup? Well, that's pretty easy. In the administrator page, I went to users, groups, and I searched for my name because that's how I name my test groups. You can see the type here is listed as super. I edit that group, and I change the type to hub, that makes it a standard group. Okay, and that's all it is. And I can go back to a super group. So what happens when I do switch a standard hub group, which can be easily created in the front end, to a super group? Okay, great. I can see that the template changed, but what else happens in the background? Um, well, as I mentioned before, 1 second here while I pull this up. There is a file structure that is created in the file structure on my GeoHub. So if you're familiar with where the code sits in the core or app directory, this happens to be in the app site groups directory. This, as you can see, is tracked by Git. Your uploads folder here is where the normal group uploads go. You can see a number of folders get created, like template, migrations, config, and components. So this supergroup, just as an example, has many components there. This db.php, that is where the credentials for the database lie. Okay, so when you SSH into the hub and then connect to MySQL, you would use those credentials to connect to that supergroup database. Now, when you build a component for your supergroup, you don't have to use this database unless you need the ability to store information. If you're just disseminating the information, then you may not need to connect to it, but it is available there for you to use if you need to. Okay. So in my document, I mention hosting features and that talks some more about the sustainability model for the main hub. If they have a number of supergroups and they charge them for the use of the hub and that supergroup, in addition to development time for supergroup components or development time for the supergroup template, because when you are a supergroup, it may not necessarily be free. And some of the things that you get by being a supergroup is you don't have to manage your own server. You don't have to make sure the site's up or maintain, watch on how much storage you're using or do backups. And software updates you get as well with the main hub. So there is some cost associated with maintaining that site once it's customized. Like with most things on HUBzero and the groups, as far as uploading and creating resources and creating content, that's all done through the website. So your group is really able to collaborate and share data very effectively without worrying about, hey, is my data backed up, or is my site going to be okay tomorrow? Also, along with that, it becomes some support features. The main hub maintains a support ticket system. They may even provide you training or any other additional requests that you may have. So it really is not only a collaboration between supergroups and the different supergroups that are on the main hub. It's really between the supergroups and the main hub that they work together to make sure their research or their goals are obtained.